Hey, I'm Shelly,
And I'm Angela,
and this is Real Talk Dating Exposed.
where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of dating in your 40s.
If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and like us below.
And if you're listening to us on audio, please subscribe as well.
Now let's get into it. All right, Ange, let's talk about feeling safe in a relationship and like what that looks like. I'll just let you take it
Yeah,
from there.
take
I can
it
go in so many directions with this, but I guess like initially, when do you settle in with someone and be like, all right, I'm feeling like the guard's coming down. I'm feeling safe with them.
You and I are different here.
Yes.
I mean, outside of just the physical, right? So we've talked about this. I need someone who's taller than me. I feel safe physically with someone who's taller than me, someone who works out. So as long as that's there, then I'm like, okay, physically, I know that this man can handle anything if shit goes down tonight.
So step one.
Yeah.
Fit those criteria. Yeah.
He's not going to just run or push me in front of someone. He's going to like handle his shit, and I'm going to be safe from a physical standpoint. That's really important to me.
Yeah.
But what's even more important is the emotional safety, right? And I mean, dare I just say it's a feeling I get? I also feel like you too, like really strong intuition. Like I can
Absolutely.
sit across the table from someone and be like, this guy's a good dude, you know?
It's totally a vibe.
It is a vibe.
You pick up on the vibe.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you're going to feel safe right away.
Yeah, no. So it's like, okay, that's there. I would say, just going back to kind of everything we've talked about even today, right? If they're not able to show up emotionally and verbalize and communicate how they're feeling, even if it's just like, hey, I really enjoy my time with you. I'm like,
I feel like it's
okay,
so hard for some men. Yeah.
So it's little things like that. Are they opening the door for me? Or even if it's just like opening the door and they're like putting their hand on my back. Like it's little things like that where I'm like, okay, I feel safe with you.
Totally.
You know? But really when it comes down to the conversation and it's, again, are they asking the right questions? Do they know who I am? Because I don't feel safe with someone who doesn't know who I am or isn't taking time to get to know who I am. So it goes back to question asking. It goes back to, do they have the ability to communicate how they're feeling? Are they asking how I'm feeling? Are they holding my hand? I mean, it's just so many things. And then time. I am typically the type of person to trust until I don't. Mm-hmm. But I'm very observant and I'm very quick to be like, yeah, no.
Totally.
You know?
Well, I think it's a fine line of walking too where you're getting to know someone and it's not like a guard, like a barrier is up blocking them out before you feel quote unquote safe, right?
Yes.
Like you're open and you're willing, but you're still not fully, because I think feeling safe brings a certain level of you showing up differently at that point. Mm-hmm. Aren't you going to be more vulnerable when you're feeling safe versus, hey, I'm still getting to know you?
Right.
You know? So I think it's making sure you balance that line of, hey, I'm getting to know you and I don't want to show up where you're, there's nothing, I don't feel safe at all with you. I don't think it's ever that. It's not like you're sitting across from a stranger, right? But you still want to make sure that you're showing up for that person in a way that you're giving them the opportunity to be vulnerable, to make you feel safe.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it totally does. And I think another big part of this is like, do they do what they say they're going to do? Right.
I think that's huge.
That is so big. Like,
well, in what capacity do you mean? Just in general, anything.
Everything. Yeah. Where it's like, hey, I'm going to call you later tonight.
And then when they don't call.
And then they don't call. I'm like, okay. Or text or, I mean, it's just, it could be something big. It could be something little, but it's like, are you doing what you say you're going to do? Because if you don't, then I can't trust your word. Right.
And I feel like trust is a huge part of that safety.
Yes.
Isn't that what we always talk about? Yeah. It's like, you have to be able to be like, all right, I know this person's got my back. And if they're going to tell me this and they say they're going to do what they're going to do it no matter what.
Yeah.
And I think you and I operate very much from that space. I'm super big on like, my word is everything. And if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And if I'm not, you're going to know why. And I'm going to let you know why I didn't do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I feel like that inconsistency, and that's what it goes back to, is, to me, there's nothing worse than someone verbally giving you, an expectation and then not following through.
I mean, they're flaky. And I just don't like flaky people.
Agree. Well, then it's not a space for us to feel safe at all.
No.
I think safety for me also is like, can I be emotionally vulnerable with you? And are you going to receive it? That way I feel like you care. Mm-hmm. You don't have to understand it, but like, are you receiving that in a way where I feel like I can continue to be emotionally vulnerable with you.
Right.
And that's a safe place for me to do that. I
Yeah.
feel like you and I in life operate from a place of go, go, go. And I feel like in our business, we kind of operate in our alphas where we don't have emotion and we're harder, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not our soft sides always,
Sure.
you know? And I think in relationships, we want that softness to come out.
Yeah.
We want to lead with that ultimately in our relationships.
Right.
We want the man to give us that safe space so that way we can be vulnerable and
Right.
soft and lean into our feminine. But I think that comes down to a lot of how they're going to handle us in that way. And I feel like it becomes a weird dance, right? Because you want to be vulnerable because you're feeling safe, but then you're also like, but how are they going to receive this?
Yeah. And I think too, it's a part of just, I'm going to show up and say and be
Who I am.
who I am, and how they receive that doesn't have a reflection of how I see myself,
Or
you
how I'm
know,
going to continue
or
to
how
show
I'm
up.
going to continue to show up, or if I share my feelings with someone and he doesn't understand it or can't reciprocate it, then it's not like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. It's, okay, he's not my person. Or
Totally.
we need to have a conversation around this because that's not an okay behavior. How much do you think the man taking the lead makes us feel safe?
I feel like the man taking the lead is everything for me. I think it goes back to just the old school values of how I was raised. And I like a man that can be the man. And it doesn't mean you have to pay for everything, or it doesn't even have to be monetarily. I think it's just when they can step up and put you in a place where you feel like you don't have to worry
Yes.
about things getting done or plans being made or any of those things, it naturally puts me into like, oh my God, I feel safe with this person.
Yes.
Because if they're taking the lead, then they're going to protect me and then they want to make sure I'm okay. And then it just
Yes.
goes down the rabbit hole of all the other feelings that it makes me feel.
Yes.
And I love that.
I love it too.
And I feel like I don't feel it often.
No.
I did have a recent experience with a guy friend of mine that came into town, and we ended up taking a trip up north, but he just kind of took the lead on everything. And he was like, I know where we're staying. You don't have to worry. Get in the car. I'm driving. This is where we're eating dinner. Packed our snacks for the hike, all the things. And I'm like, oh my God. I told him, like, thank you for making me realize, like, I need that from someone.
Right.
I really want that in a man
Yes.
that I'm with. And I can't remember the last time that I was able to just like shut my brain off for 72 hours and know that I was safe and taken care of, but not have to think or worry about anything.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, #relationship goals. I really, really want that.
Yes.
I think being able to trust someone with all of those things puts me in such a awesome place for the guy I'm with.
Well, you're soft. I mean, you're in your feminine, right? And that's ultimately what the man wants. But I think what's important for the men to hear is if the woman is not in her feminine, it's likely has something to do with what you're doing or how you're making her feel.
Or not doing.
Or-
Yeah, like what?
Yes.
I think if a man takes the lead and you make a woman feel, just give her, it doesn't have to be a 4-day trip. It could be, hey, I planned dinner tonight. I'm going to pick you up. I'm going to open your door. I mean,
Yes.
these are like little things, and it doesn't mean you have to do it all the time, every time. But I think women will lean into their feminine
Yes.
if they get a sense of safety, even if it's just here and there, because men have busy lives too. And I get, we all want chivalry, and I get women also need to take care of their men, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But I think we show up best for our men when we can be in our feminine.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. It doesn't mean that we're not taking the initiative and we're not making plans, or we're not like, hey, I want to surprise you and I want to reciprocate this. I'm all about that. I definitely want it to feel mutual in that regards, but it comes from a different space of, I want to do this for you because of how you make me feel, versus I need to do this because if I don't do it, then it's not going to get done.
Well, I think the irony of the whole thing is when you are put in that place because you're being taken care of, it makes you it naturally puts you in a place where you're like, oh my God, I want to do this for them because they did this for me.
Yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
it's not coming, just like you said, it's not coming from that space of like, oh my God, if I don't do this, they're going to get angry, or it's not expected, right? I think it naturally makes you want to just reciprocate those feelings.
Right.
And again, yes. So being in our feminine is where I like love to be relationally. It doesn't get there often.
Yeah.
I don't
it's
find
hard.
myself there
Well,
often.
and it could be a couple things, but I think, if women are dating and they're finding themselves like having to be the one to initiate or having to be, then it's like, okay, now you're in your alpha and you probably you don't want to be there.
You don't want to be there.
You don't want to be there. It's just not a good situation because men need to be in their masculine. And when they're not, then they're eventually going to end up resenting the woman.
Well, I think this goes back to some of our conversations we've had on here where I'm like, a man should pay for the first date. And, we get so much flack and heat for that. But I'm like, ultimately, do you want a woman to show up as the woman? Like, it's not about being 50-50. It's like treating a woman and having chivalry and being a gentleman because you want us to show up and be that soft and nurturing and take care of you in ways, which I agree we should be doing that as women. But the best way to get us there is to take care of us.
Yes.
And make us feel safe.
Yes.
Which is sometimes taking the lead.
Yeah.
I just think that's so important.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't want to be making plans on the first date, right?
No.
Do we ever want to be making? I mean, I like making the plan. I'm not mad at making plans.
Yeah, I'm definitely not mad. And that's just where I'm the type of person that's like, I'm a giver, right? And so it's like, okay, it incentivizes me. It motivates me. It's a mirror to be like, okay, how can I show up for this person? How they're showing up for me. I don't think that's a bad thing. Like I said, it's a different feeling versus like, well, if I don't do it, then it's not going to get done.
I agree.
So that's totally different.
How important do you think it is for like a man? I don't know. I feel like we don't use this context so much with speaking with men, but like men feeling safe. Like, do you think that that's a thing for them? Do you feel like women can do certain things to make them, put them in a better space where they feel more confident and comfortable being emotionally vulnerable?
Yeah. I mean, this goes back to men want, need, desire a space where they can share their emotions and not feel judged, not feel like it's going to be held against them, not feel like we're going to look at them as less of a man because of it. And so that's where it goes back to, if we're in our feminine, we can hold that soft space for them. And I almost feel like it's our job obligation to encourage those conversations. I'm not mad at being like, hey, I noticed you had a reaction with that. Like, are you open to sharing me? Are you open to share your feelings around it?
Well, I think you have to create a dialogue. It's never going to just be all in. And actually, I've dated some dudes that are super emotional, and I'm not. Again, it's a balance in everything, right? Yes. I still feel like men should be men, and I love men having emotions, but like, just like women shouldn't be too overly emotional. It cannot lead your life.
No,
but I do think it's perfect what you said, which is setting the tone with an initial, use an example of some experience that you two have, which would give you the opening the door per se to like, hey, I would love for you to further tell me why you seem so upset about that. And it's giving him, and that's allowing him the space to kind of start leaning into the emotional side, because I don't think it's easy for men to go there. And they're not just going to be like, oh, she asked me how I'm feeling. Let me just automatically be this emotionally, open human. I just don't think men are in that space.
Well, no, because I mean, emotions to men equals weakness, right? And so if we can, behind closed doors, offer that space to give them the opportunity to feel safe,
then it'll keep that door staying open. Yes. It would allow that to catalyze more until you finally get to a space where you're like, okay, they can be emotionally vulnerable with me in all circumstances, but they still know I'm a man and that I'm strong. Yes. And it's not a reflection of, because I think a lot of men like confuse that sometimes. Like if I'm showing emotion, then that doesn't mean I'm masculine. If anything, I feel like that does make you even more masculine.
It's
like
so
it's
so attractive
sexy
to
guys
me.
to like be able to
articulate your feelings, not overly emotional, right? Because I think that's unattractive, both men and women, where it's like, okay, get a grip. Like there
needs to be a balance.
Yes, but we're human and we have feelings. So to be able to feel them and then be able to communicate around them and then be able to say like, this is what I need going forward, or this is how it makes me feel, is so attractive. Like I would live in those conversations all day long.
I mean, it's probably one of the sexiest thing about a man, right? Yeah. That's able to verbalize that, but still like be
a man. Yeah.
So I think
it's almost like, it happens behind closed doors where, and maybe that's just like the visualization, not literally, but it's like they're a man in the world. They're going to go out, protect and provide. And like, again, going back to if shit goes down, like I know that I'm safe. And I also know that I'm one of the few people that gets to see this side of him because he trusts me and he feels safe. And And also it's our obligation, our duty to never throw it in their face, to never be like, oh, remember that. I mean, that's also going back to like trust in
Being
trust.
vulnerable,
Yeah.
or in
Yeah.
general.
You want to obviously know, understand, and respect the fact that it takes a lot for a man to do that. So be respectful of that.
Well, I think if anything, yes, the more respectful you are of that, the more it gives him that safe space.
Yes.
And I think that dichotomy of like the alpha out there, but like the softie in here is like what every woman wants.
Yes.
I mean,
100%. But also understanding that we as women play a huge role in that. And
100%.
I'm okay with that.
And I
But
do
we're
think it
also
is how
not
we're
men.
showing up.
We're not men. So maybe there's another way that men feel safe that we're not thinking about. And of course, we want to hear that. But
For sure. Well, because I think at the end of the day, every woman wants to feel like they have that connection with their man. And it's one thing for a man to honor our space that we're in emotionally, but don't you want to be able to reciprocate that for your man? I know speaking on our behalf, we do.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's other women out there that don't care. They just want to know that they can be emotionally received and they don't really care about receiving their partner. I could never imagine a land where a man doesn't feel like he wants that also, because it's just not a healthy balance.
But I also don't think they're communicating it. I mean, maybe they are. Again, blanket statements here, right? But maybe it's something that they don't even realize that they need, that they're not getting. And
I completely agree with that.
And again, it's up to us.
Agree.
It's up to us to create that awareness, spark those conversations, ask the questions, and give them the space to lean into it.
Agree. But I think feeling safe, full circle now, is probably one of the most important aspects of getting a relationship to the next level, at least in my world, right?
Yeah.
Like past the frilly dates, it's like knowing like, okay, they're ride or die.
Yep.
They got my back. I know whether I'm laughing, crying, stressed out, whatever I'm feeling that day, they got my back. I mean, it's so many things, right?
Yeah.
But I think that does elevate you to the next level in a relationship, heading towards that long-term goal that we all want.
Yeah, it's that
And I
connection.
think the minute that's broken on the flip side, which is the minute I no longer feel safe with someone, I don't think you can't get that back with me. Do you
Not
feel
at
that?
all.
I don't. I guess it depends on what.
I think it depends on the
depends on
situation.
the intensity of what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. But there's been times where I'm like, okay, absolutely not. Like that just broke everything you were standing for and all of the trust that's been built thus far. And then there's no coming back from that
Yeah.
for me.
I definitely think that that's hard to come back from any like trust.
And I also think if it's someone new that you're dating, then you
What's
cut
the
your
point?
losses.
Yeah.
There's no point.
Yeah.
There's no kids involved. This isn't marriage. This
Yeah.
isn't like, oh, we better try to make this work.
Yeah.
So I guess safety does play a big part in our relationships.
100%. Communication, trust, safety.
Communication, trust, safety. That's a good starting point. And then also women, show up for your men to give them a place
Yeah.
to feel emotionally safe. I think having that side of your man will only better your relationship.
And have a reflection too, where if you're in a relationship or you're going into one, think about what are ways that I can do, or how am I not giving my husband, boyfriend this space, and don't take it defensively. If they're maybe they have friends that are girls that they're comfortable having this conversation with. I know me, I'd be like, okay, what am I doing or what am I not doing?
Yeah, well, I feel like if your significant other was having this conversation with another woman that isn't you, that's a problem. That would be a problem for me.
Yeah.
And not in a sense of like, oh, that's not okay for them to do that. It would just be like, you want to be able to be that for your person too.
Yeah. Where again, it goes back to have the ability to reflect and be like, what am I doing
That he
to
doesn't
create
feel
that dynamic so that he doesn't feel comfortable and safe talking to me,
but he can go to her.
but he can go to her.
Yeah. I mean, so many things.
So many things. But these are all great topics.
They are great topics.
Thank you for tuning in. If you're not following us, make sure you are, and
Go to our YouTube, TikTok.
Instagram.
Yep. Audio. We are there. Thank you.